Donald Trump is losing it as Americans are demanding his impeachment. Get him out. It's not just Democrats. It's not just independents. Even former MAGA Republicans are saying you are acting like a dictator. You are behaving like a wannabe king. Get the hell out of there. And specifically, a lot of former MAGA people, or I guess they're still MAGA, but they're leaving right now, are livid that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth have now retaliated against the AI company Anthropic for demanding that if their AI Claude language is used by the Department of Defense, that it cannot be used for mass surveillance or autonomous killing. The Trump regime is demanding that the AI Claude language be used for autonomous killing as well as mass surveillance. And they have now retaliated against Anthropic by calling it a supply chain risk, banning it from doing any business with the federal government. And they've now stated, and Pete Hegseth posted last night, that any company that has a Department of Defense contract, which Hegseth calls unlawfully the Department of War, that does business with Anthropic or has any commercial activity with Anthropic, that they will be banned from doing business with the government as well. So Amazon and Google and Microsoft and Nvidia, they all do business with Anthropic. So the Trump regime is now saying that all of those companies can't do business with the federal government. So I'm just trying to understand this. So it is okay for the United States to give its most highly classified semiconductor chips to the United Arab Emirates because they give Donald Trump's crypto company, World Liberty Financial, billions and billions of dollars that Donald Trump personally pockets huge sums of money. It's okay for Nvidia to give its semiconductor chips to China. That doesn't pose a supply chain risk if Nvidia sells its chips to China. But if Nvidia uses the Claude system or the Claude AI, or if Microsoft uses Claude, or if Amazon uses it, then all of a sudden that presents the supply chain risk. So now the Trump regime is attacking an American AI company. How could any company do business in the United States under those circumstances? And you can see why bank stocks are suffering and lots of tech stocks are suffering. Take a look at this Wall Street Journal article from yesterday. Bank stocks suffer another plunge on credit and AI fears. Consumer lenders more vulnerable during economic recessions were among Friday's worst performers, including American Express. You came in with a relatively optimistic outlook for the year. And now investors are running into risk factors that weren't necessarily at the top of their lists. What some of these bankers are saying, the risk factor that should be on the top of your list is Donald Trump, because the guy wakes up and then he starts having psychotic meltdowns, and then he starts posting things about this tariff and that tariff, and here's what I'm going to do. And that has real world impact on the United States, which is why we've been alienated in trade relationships by most countries throughout the world. And it's why we see America suffering right now. And we saw yesterday morning that the PPI, the producer price index, again, that usually translates to the consumer price index being raised and consumer-related inflation being raised. If the producer is paying more, came in way hotter than expected, 60 basis points higher than expected when it comes to core PPI. Core PPI unexpectedly rose 3.6% above expectations of 3%, which would have been high. And January's PPI, not the core PPI, its PPI, came in at 2.9% above the expectations of 2.6%. In other words, how the hell is the Fed ever going to cut interest rates when this is the case? They can't cut interest rates. That's why there was another terrible day on the market yesterday. And while all of this is taking place, Donald Trump is threatening war with Cuba. And now we learned additional information that it appears, whether it was CIA backed or someone in the Trump regime backing some of these individuals who purportedly are from the Cuban diaspora, who were in South Florida, who got on those boats to go to Cuba and started opening fire on the Cuban Coast Guards. And then 4 of these individuals were killed on these United States fishing boats or speedboats. 6 people were captured. And the Cuban embassy just put out a statement kind of detailing who these individuals were and how they were living in the United States. And that's at the same time Donald Trump is talking about friendly regime change in Cuba, regime change in Iran. There's a war right now between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and Donald Trump saying that he's a big supporter of Pakistan because they said that he should get a Nobel Peace Prize. So there's a hot war going on right there. I mean, what in the world is happening? And, yesterday you had the deposition of former President Bill Clinton, who sat there in New York with the House Oversight Committee asking him all these questions about Epstein, and he answered every question. No, didn't invoke the fifth, unlike Donald Trump, who invoked the fifth during a deposition that he took in connection with some of the New York cases that were against him. Remember, he invoked the fifth in some of those cases. And what former President Clinton said during the deposition, I think, was actually potentially a smoking gun against Donald Trump. And I think Trump was really afraid about this. Former President Clinton said, look, Donald Trump told me that he had gotten along with Epstein and that they ended up having a falling out over a real estate transaction that they did together, and that it was nothing about girls, it was nothing about anything like that, or sex trafficking, that they were friends, and then they had a fight over a real estate transaction. By the way, as you know, what have we been saying on the MeidasTouch network? Not for the past year. If you've been watching this network, we've been talking about that real estate transaction that I said was at the heart of the Trump-Epstein disputes. I've been talking about that for 5 years, right? There was this guy named Abe Gossman, who in the West Palm Beach area. He went bankrupt. He had this mansion that was on the beach in Palm Beach. Epstein was going to buy the property in a foreclosure sale. They basically had it rigged that it was going to be sold to Epstein. Epstein told Trump about the property. Trump shows up to the foreclosure sale from the bankruptcy trustee, snatches it away from Epstein, then 4 years later sells it to this Dmitry Rybalov, this Russian oligarch. Epstein thinks that the Russian oligarch and Trump were in on it from the outset to screw over Epstein. They get into a fight together. When Epstein is investigated the first time in Florida, right around the time he got a sweetheart deal, that's when Epstein was thinking that because of the real estate transaction and the fact that Epstein was thinking about suing Trump, that only then Donald Trump was saying things to the West Palm Beach detectives about Epstein and saying that he was a bad guy and that everybody knew Epstein was a bad guy. Only after Epstein got caught originally, and then he got the sweetheart deal, in order for Trump to protect himself. But also Trump didn't want to be sued by Epstein over this real estate transaction. And Epstein was talking about what he thought was the shadiness with the Russian purchase of the property that Trump bought in 2004. Trump purchased it for $41 million, then sold it to the Russian Dmitry Rybalov 4 years later for like $95 million and made a $45 million profit. So that's what came out of the Clinton deposition. And people are like, as Donald Trump and all these MAGA Republicans are like, oh, Donald Trump's been exonerated. Donald Trump's been, the files show that he's exonerated. What are you talking about? Quite the opposite. What files are you looking at? Okay, objectively, I don't care what political party you're from. And this is why Republicans, independents, Democrats, everybody's basically like, dude, you better testify, Donald, about Epstein, or you got to go. I think he's got to go for a lot of other reasons. Let me be very clear. And I could rewind a little bit and talk about, maybe giving our classified semiconductor chips to the United Arab Emirates in exchange basically for quid pro quo money, in my opinion, to your crypto company. And by the way, the Pakistanis invested in Donald Trump's crypto company as well. They created a crypto fund. But Donald Trump's going after Anthropic, like a successful American company is who you go after, because they won't allow you to use their AI for autonomous killing and mass surveillance. That's why people are like, get this, impeach this guy now. But here's what Donald Trump posted yesterday as well at 8:35 p.m. 8:35 p.m. at night. Here's what he posts. Don Huffines is a MAGA warrior. He has been with me from the very beginning and is running for comptroller of public accounts in Texas, which I love and won big in 2016, 2020, and 2024. As a successful businessman, Don knows the America First policies required to grow our economy. He has my complete and total endorsement. Don will never let you down. You know Huffines, right? You know Huffines from watching the MeidasTouch show, right? You know what I'm talking about. Huffines is the guy who bought Epstein's Zorro Ranch. Remember, Epstein purchased the Zorro Ranch in 1993. He had it through the time of his death. That was one of the areas that lots of people believe Epstein may have killed and buried victims in the Zorro Ranch area. Lots of people suspected that. Regardless, that's where a lot of the child sex trafficking took place, at the Zorro Ranch, but it was never subject to any FBI or local state investigations at all. And that property was purchased by Huffines in 2023 under an LLC shell company called San Rafael LLC. And then we learned recently that Huffines was actually the owner of it, this MAGA guy. And then after he purchased Zorro Ranch with San Rafael LLC, when Donald Trump got into office, then Trump hired Huffines' son, who was working for like a fireworks company, at a senior position in the White House. So Don Huffines' kid works as a senior official in the Trump White House right now. And now Huffines has said that, and he made this announcement since this Truth Commission was established in New Mexico to investigate the Zorro Ranch. Huffines says that he's now doing construction on the Zorro Ranch property to turn it into a Christian retreat for kids. A Christian retreat for kids, and now you're doing construction on it as the investigation is taking place. The hell is going on here? And then, of course, Donald Trump gave that bizarre speech in Corpus Christi yesterday in Texas, and he was saying how we're hot. Then he points to somebody in the audience and says, we're hot. I was going to say hot like you. And he points to a woman in the audience. He goes, but if I said you're hot, then I may get in trouble. But you're hot. And he points to like a lady in the audience. Here, play this clip.
And now we're hot. We're hot. I was going to say like that person in the audience, but I won't say that because that could be career ending.
He then praises Tony Gonzalez, the MAGA Republican Congress member who's facing calls to resign after sexually harassing his staffer for nude photos and asking her for, this is in the text message, to give him anal, is what this MAGA Republican Congressman is saying. Anal question mark. And then she allegedly died by suicide shortly thereafter by purportedly self-immolating by burning herself to death. And then Donald Trump says, congratulations, Tony Gonzalez. He says, congratulations to the guy. Congrats. What are you congratulating the guy for sexually harassing the staffer who eventually died by suicide? I mean, do we realize that this guy is the biggest sicko ever? Here, play this clip.
Congressman Tony Gonzalez is here. Tony, congratulations.
And then he says he's totally exonerated by the Epstein files. Totally exonerated is what he said. You're not exonerated at all. What are you talking about?
The last news of Epstein files. In particular,
I don't know anything about the Epstein files. I've been fully exonerated.
And also on the self-dealing front as well. Yesterday, we learned that Trump Media and Technology Group that runs his social media platform, Truth Social. One thing that we learned is that it lost $712 million in 2025. So a loss of $712 million $712 million, and it brought in just $3.7 million in revenue in 2025. Just think about that. But then it also announced yesterday that it was considering spinning off its Truth Social platform into a separate publicly traded company as it advances a planned $6 billion merger with a fusion energy firm, TAE Technology. So nuclear fusion has not been used in any real commercial sense yet. It gets massive grants by Donald Trump's Department of Energy. So Trump's social media platform is failing. So he's now combining his social media platform with this spin-off entity and merging it with a nuclear fusion company called TAE that relies on government grants from Donald Trump's Department of Energy. I just want you to think of it. While all of that's going on, you have RFK Jr. Giving speeches saying that we should all be eating liver and as opposed to other cuts of meat because liver is cheaper. And we should just be happy eating liver, is what he says. Like, why are you complaining about food prices? Just eat the liver. You care about steak? Just eat the liver, he says. Here, play this clip.
And this is true all over the country. There's a lot of good food in grocery stores that goes away. Most of the cheap cuts of meat are very inexpensive. If you buy a porterhouse steak or a strip steak, it is gonna set you back. You can buy liver or the cheaper cuts of steak that are very, very affordable.
And then you have Donald Trump's Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, doing this. Play this clip.
All right, now with the preview of the president's speech, let's bring in the Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. He joins us now.
Again, so the hell is going on with this regime? Everybody, let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million subscribers, and thank you for watching.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.